Hello everyone and welcome back to another Universe Sandbox video, and today we're going to be doing an idea which one of you guys suggested in the comments this week. So without further ado, let's get into this. So this idea was put in the Cold Solar System Part 3 video. It's by the user It's Shuttlecraft here, and their idea was try replacing Mercury with Jupiter and Venus with Saturn. Sounds pretty simple so far, but then add moons to both planets. So straight away I can already sort of work out in my head, this is going to be chaos, because if we just look at the solar system, for instance, Jupiter and Saturn, outer solar system, Jupiter, the closer of the two, is around 5 astronomical units away from the sun. I mean, where are you? About 5.2. It takes 11 years to go around, and then Saturn is more around, was it 50? No, 9. Okay, 9.6 roughly. So 5 and then 9. But if we go all the way here, there's Earth, that's obviously 1 AU. Mercury and Venus are less than that. Yeah, I think Venus is 0.7-ish, something like that. I mean, we can have a little quick look. But, yeah, they're a lot closer than where the normal go. Yeah, so around 0.7, yeah. So they're a lot closer. That being said, if we're going to add the moons, if you think about it, normally when we add the moons around Jupiter, so if we, and I don't think it'll work with the custom one, but obviously Jupiter's moon orbits, they cover quite a large area. Same with Saturn's, but that's in the outer solar system. In the inner solar system, the sun's gravity is going to be a little stronger, because obviously you're closer to the object with the biggest mass. So Jupiter and Saturn may not be able to hang on to all of their moons. So without further ado, let's give this a shot. So it was replace Mercury with Jupiter and Venus with Saturn. Okay, so Mercury, we need to replace you with Jupiter. And also one thing I can probably suggest will happen here is putting Jupiter and Saturn this close to the sun will probably have consequences for the other objects in the solar system, having the big mass objects really, really close. So, yeah, we'll just do the normal Jupiter, because we need to add the moons to it. So, normal Jupiter's added. And then Venus, we need to replace you with Saturn. So, there we go. We'll just go the regular Saturn as well, just to make it easier. Right, so click play. Right, so both of those orbits should be locked in now. Right, so Jupiter and Saturn. Now, add moons to the planet. Right, okay, they're added. You can already see, look, some of them are almost at the sun already. So I think Kale over here, if you say it like that, and all of these other guys. I mean, if we put Saturn, I mean, what we could do, actually what we'll do to make it interesting is, we'll put Saturn and Earth. So where are we? We need to go to, okay, so we're going to put Saturn here. So roughly quite close to Jupiter anyway. And then we're going to move Earth and Mars. We'll put Earth and Mars roughly in the area as well. So Earth and then Mars over here. Like so. So let's put Mars there. So they didn't actually suggest this, but I'm just going to do it to make it a little more interesting. So they're all lined up, the inner 4 planets here. So Earth and then Mars. Right. Now, Saturn. We're going to add your moons in. And I reckon they're going to clash with Jupiter's moons right off the get-go here. Yes, that moon there, that was one of Saturn's, and it's already... Yeah, this is going to be absolutely chaos. Right, so I'll slow down time. So, nice and slow. Click play and pause. Oh my god. Okay. That's pretty great. Right, so what have we got? So we've got Saturn and its main moon. So, Titan is there. And then there's Iapetus. So, Iapetus for Saturn is, I'd say it's probably the last of the major moons, isn't it? I mean, further out, it's just all of the asteroid objects. I mean, yeah, Iapetus, last of the major moons. And obviously, inwards, you have Titan, Rhea, Dione, and all the other ones. So, yeah, those will probably be alright, is my guess. But then if we go to Jupiter, I'm guessing it'll just be the 4 Galileo moons. I reckon they'll be alright, but not much of the other ones. So, yeah, and there's a few more moons closer than Io, isn't there? So, Io, Europa, Ganymede, Callisto. And then all of these, I mean, some of them are very close to the Sun. I mean, yeah, Jupiter's in the orbit of Mercury, remember? And these moons are closer than that already. So, I reckon some of these are going to get tossed out the solar system, I reckon. But now, let's see what happens. And you know what? I think I'll add the asteroid belt in as well, because I want to see what happens to the asteroid belt with the inner planets being close in there. Just to add it, make it a little more spicy. So, add ring. So, yeah, the asteroid belt would now be, yeah, in its normal spot. So, without further ado, we're going to click play. I'm not going to keep talking and babbling on anymore. Play. Right. I'm going to speed it up. Okay, so it's all running. And look, you can see Earth here. Those moons aren't too far away from Earth. I mean, that is pretty close. And actually, what we'll do quickly as well, can you actually see Saturn? So if I put it on flashlight mode, just so, I reckon we'd probably be able to spot the gas giants. So let's go to flashlight. That's Saturn there. Can we spot Jupiter anywhere? No. But you can definitely see Saturn, which is pretty cool. Yeah, but right, enough of me messing around. We're going to do this. Play. Orbits on. And then we're going to let it roll. So you can already see, yeah, Jupiter, I mean, right off the bat, Jupiter lost basically all of its moons, apart from the inner 4. We can already see stuff's going on here as well. So what's that? So that's, okay, this moon here. We can also see some of these are already having their orbits bent. So this one looks like it's just going to go straight into Jupiter. Yeah, it has. So I think it was that one anyway. Or it may just be hanging on. I mean, that orbit is dangerously close to being hit in Jupiter. And there we go. It may have just been ejected completely. We can see Callisto. That orbit isn't as well it was before. Callisto's orbit is being stretched. I don't know if that's by the presence of Saturn, because we can see its orbit is pointing, it's bent towards where Saturn is, or if it's the sun. But we can see already that, I mean, we've been playing for, I mean, a couple of hours. I mean, we're at 155 years, but that's just the simulation's age. But yeah, we haven't been going very long, have we? I mean, we've barely moved. So, right, let's see how Saturn's doing. And we can already see, is that Iapetus? Iapetus as well, straight off the bat, is already being bent away from Saturn and its normal orbit position. So we'll keep going. Obviously, I want to try and spot all of the changes as they happen. So I'm expecting Callisto to break away at some point. I'm definitely going to expect Iapetus to break away as well. Yeah, I'm not going to put labels on just to make it so it's not so bad. Right, we'll speed it up a bit. I mean, I don't think we can go much faster. Okay, so what was that? Something just broke away. Now we'll put labels on. Callisto, oh, no, so that is Callisto hanging on, but we can see some of the other moons are already having trouble here. So, right, there we go. Yeah, you can really see this moon here. And it's gone. It's been broken away. There you go. So that's escaped Jupiter's gravity already. Right, so that is just, yeah, that's getting pulled away by the sun now. So all of these are got really weird, almost like comet-like orbits now, are just being pulled away from Jupiter and Saturn. Right, so how's Saturn doing? Right, is that Iapetus there? Okay, so Iapetus as well. That orbit is not doing very well, is it? I mean, you can see, I reckon the inner area of Saturn should be okay. I mean, we can check to see which major moons survive later on as well. Right, so how are we doing in Jupiter's orbit? And actually, the solar system itself, anything changing out here? Also, we got the normal Jupiter and Saturn further out as well, the dwarf planets. But I'm expecting a lot of these orbits to wobble eventually, or change, just to have these massive, having these massive gas giants present this close to the sun. Right, so let's see how we're going. Is that, that's not Callisto there, that's the other one. So Callisto is, oh, that's, wait, hang on. That's Ganymede. That's not Callisto. Where's Callisto gone? Callisto? Oh, there you go. Callisto is now, I mean, is it large enough to be a planet? I mean, if we compare it to Mercury. But in theory, Callisto is its own planet now. I mean, that's Mercury. I mean, I'd argue Callisto's large enough to be a planet. I mean, it's not that much smaller than Mercury is. So, yeah, I'd argue that the solar system now has a new planet, Callisto. I reckon that would be large enough. I mean, I don't know about, because I think the definition of a planet says, oh, it has to have quite a clear orbit area. I mean, there's obviously a lot of stuff flying around the sun now, but I think size-wise, yeah, a new planet, closest planet to the sun, Callisto. So there's Callisto, right. Jupiter, so yeah, Ganymede's still hanging on, isn't it? So yeah, Ganymede's obviously closer. Jupiter's gravity would be stronger there. How are we doing around Saturn as well? So Saturn, Iapetus, are you hanging on? Where's Iapetus? Oh, there's Hyperion. Where's Iapetus? Oh, Iapetus has gone. Completely broken away from the Saturn now. It means Saturn's, I mean, if we just turn it all off, Saturn, you're not that far away. I mean, you can see, I mean, Saturn's not out of reach, is it? But being this close to the sun, rather than your normal location, yeah, the sun has nicked it off Saturn, like it's taken Callisto from Jupiter. So the outer major moons of Jupiter and Saturn, so Iapetus and Callisto, they've already been taken by the sun already. So yeah, that is now, yeah, broken away. We can see the simulation's getting a little laggy with all of these in here. I mean, that is quite a lot. I mean, oh my god, right. Mimas, what's happened to Mimas? Mimas has just been broken away from Saturn. That's interesting why it's done that. Very interesting. How are we doing? Oh, we can see Enceladus isn't looking too good there. Look at that. Why is Enceladus's orbit? So I'm guessing the sun's presence is really upsetting the moons here. I mean, yeah, look at that. Right, so it looks like Enceladus has broken away completely. Titan is still hanging on. We've still got Tethys, Dione, Rhea. They're all chilling in there. Obviously, all of these other moons are just... I mean, look at all these crazy orbits. I mean, some of these are probably just going to get completely shot out. You can see that line is just going straight out the solar system there. So, not good. How's the asteroid belt doing? I'm guessing that should... I mean, we're not really running it fast enough. So actually, I will just remove that for the time being, just so it can run a little quicker. Because, I mean, the asteroid belt, we'll probably see a few asteroids' orbits change. But, yeah, now we can actually run it. So, Mimas, what has happened to you? Completely shot out the inner solar system. Look at that. Completely gone. So, that is heading for God knows where now. how else are we doing here? Mars and... I wonder, actually, where's Earth? How's Earth doing? I wonder if Earth's going to pick up any new moons from this. I mean, Earth may be able to take a moon or two if any of them get too close to it. I mean, Earth's still a fairly large presence in the inner solar system here. I mean, yeah, it'd be the third largest behind Jupiter and Saturn now. I mean, there's definitely some few moons nearby where Earth could probably interfere with. How are we doing in here, though? I mean, this is just absolutely nuts. I mean, oh, that's another moon. Tethys has broken away. Something else is now shooting out. That's Io. So we've lost Io as well. I didn't even notice that. So that's broken away from Jupiter somehow. And that is, yeah. Oh dear, oh dear. Right. See, I reckon the presence of Saturn is upsetting the moons of Jupiter a bit, and I reckon the presence of Jupiter is upsetting some of the moons of Saturn. It has to be. And then obviously the Sun. Don't forget the Sun as well. But I reckon that's probably what's going on here. So yeah, there's Iapetus. That's broken away. So if we head back to Jupiter itself, so what have we still got? So we've got Europa and Ganymede. So obviously Callisto and Io are gone. So there's only 2 moons left of the major moons. So yeah, Callisto's just a planet now around the Sun. 132 degrees at Callisto. And then Saturn, how are we doing over here? So we've lost... we definitely lost Mimas and Enceladus, and then Iapetus. So we've got Titan, Rhea. All of the inner moons are gone. Look, Rhea is now the closest moon. So what's happened to Tethys, Dione? Where have they all gone? Hyperion's still out there. Let's just. So there's Tethys. So that's one of the moons with the big craters on it. So there it is. I'm honest, it's going to be quite hard to spot some of these, but... So how... Oh my, right. I don't know where Enceladus has gone. That's just long gone. Right, so... Okay, now everything's mostly broken away. Let's actually put some speed into here so we can see some of them are getting really strange orbits. Some of these are just going to be completely ejected. And there's Europa. Just spotted Europa. Oh, Europa's not doing too well. Obviously because Europa, it's got a lot of ice on it. And being this close to the sun, that's not going to do Europa very good. So, yeah, Europa could be in big trouble being that close to the sun. I mean, I don't know if it would be fully disintegrated at that range, but, I mean, it's still not going to do too well. But, I mean, look at here. Okay, so something else has just been ejected over there. But, I mean, look at the state of the inner solar system. That's basically Earth's orbit is completely covered by these moons now. Mars is just hanging on. Mars is doing okay. That orbit is fairly clear. But, yeah, Earth's orbit is completely overwhelmed by moons now. So, there we go. But now we can see a lot of these moons are just going really close to the sun due to their orbits constantly being bent and changed by the gas giant's presence there. And, yeah, I mean, the solar system normally, I think there is a simulation in the game, which we can probably check out afterwards. But I think that shows a lot of the nearby inner solar system asteroids and comets and stuff. But there definitely probably isn't this many. I mean, Jupiter and Saturn combined, we're talking over 100 moons here. I mean, around 150? I mean, let's just average it. I think Jupiter and Saturn are around 70, 80 moons, aren't they? So, I mean, I think they may be in the hundreds now. I mean, yeah, so we've definitely got a good 150-ish moons, 170-ish, around that value. So we've got all these. Obviously, there are a lot of them are just very insignificant, but the major moons, there's a good 10 of them, larger objects in this area. But we can see here that is not, yeah, that is just absolutely nuts. Actually, speaking of major moons, I want to see how Titan's doing temperature-wise. So where it says Titan's still hanging on to Saturn, one of the larger objects. So Titan is at -71 at the moment. I don't know if that will warm up or not. Oh, we are going very fast around the inner solar system. So Titan is warming up. It's just taking a bit of time because we haven't run it fast. So that's hanging on to Saturn. So Saturn seems to have stabilised. So these are the 2 moons that have survived. Titan and Hyperion there. So that's all that's left of Saturn's system. So Jupiter, on the other hand, anything... I think Jupiter's lost everything, hasn't it? Yes, it has. Yeah, no moon is orbiting Jupiter. We've lost all the Galilean moons are gone. All that's left is, yeah, the planet by itself. That's it. Oh my god, right. And also, yeah, Jupiter is closer to the sun than Saturn is. So, yeah, the sun's gravity would be, in theory, a lot more powerful where Jupiter is compared to Saturn. So, Saturn can hang on to a little bit more, but, yeah, Jupiter's moons, every single one is gone. Every single... I mean, that is just absolutely crazy. I mean, the presence of Jupiter here still is probably going to shoot some of these moons out eventually. But as we can see, most of the moons have sort of made their own little... I mean, could you argue it's like a kind of a miniature asteroid belt? I mean, compared to the asteroid belt itself, there's hardly any moons in here, or asteroids, but I mean, there's still a fair amount of objects. I mean, the way the orbits are going, I mean, that's quite a large... I mean, if we put it on... So, we can put trails on. Oh, no, trails is just as bad as orbits, actually. Never mind. So, right, if we just look onto the sun now, right, so we can just see everything. It's going around. The orbits... yeah, right, orbits are on. But, I mean, just look at it without orbits. Look at all that. I mean, that is just... There's Pandora. That's one of Saturn's moons. I mean, that is just... That's insane. I mean, yeah, inner solar system... That is That is definitely a sight to behold there. I mean, that is crazy. Right, so let's just go. Let's try and go a little bit faster now. So we can see as time progresses, the moon's orbits are going to change. I mean, yeah, the gas giants being that close, that is really going to upset these orbits eventually. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if we eventually see Earth or Mars's orbit change. Some of the larger objects in the inner solar system still. Because, I mean, Saturn does get fairly close to Mars. Oh, Europa. What has just happened to you there? Past the orbit of Mars into the asteroid belt area now. Look at this. So, Europa, not doing too good. I mean, that's pretty crazy. And also, as it approaches the sun again, that's gonna skyrocket in temperature as it gets close. I mean, at its closest point. Yeah, that does go a lot hotter. So, yeah, there's Europa. Back to Titan. I want to see how Titan do in temperature-wise. So, where are we? Titan? Got to scroll down a lot. Where is it? Right, there we go. How are you doing? So, yeah, Titan's still doing all right, hanging on to Saturn. So, it's now at 43 degrees. Positive numbers. And it's still increasing. So, Titan's getting some temperature going there. Interesting. Right. Back to the sun. So, let's keep it going. Okay, let it go as far as possible. So we can see more orbits are starting to break out into the asteroid belt area now. So that's getting pretty crazy. So I want to say Earth's orbit may be slightly different here. How's Earth doing? 1.01 years. Okay, so Earth's roughly the same there. So Earth hasn't changed too much. Right. So we can still see Jupiter and Saturn. I mean, they're probably not going to change. But yeah, it's just all of the moons. So if we just zoom out, actually, how many moons have actually just been lost? So we can see Io is at where Sedna is now. How fast is it going? 49.5 kilometers a second. Yeah, I mean, it's on its way to Planet 9's area, so that's going up pretty far there. We can see Haumea there. That's not doing too good. Oh, no, not Haumea. What am I talking about? That's one of the dwarf. No, this object here, Metis. So that's going past the original orbit of Saturn now. Damn, that is pretty crazy. Right, so I mean, that is that is absolutely nuts. So, alright, let's keep it going. But we've got to remember, the faster I play the simulation, the less accurate it can be. So we don't want to go too fast. But yeah, there we go. We can see Europa's orbit. I reckon eventually, if Europa crosses past with Jupiter too much, or Saturn, I reckon Europa could see a massive change in its orbit again at some point. So yeah, Europa's almost got like a comet-like orbit going in and out like that. I mean, that is pretty crazy. We can see some of the other moons are coming in and out as well. But yeah, that is pretty nuts. So, how are we looking? So we can see some orbits have got. Oh, and what has happened to Pandora here? I mean, look at that. Look how its orbit. Look how inclined that is. It's almost got like a Uranus moon-like orbit around the sun now. I mean, what is going on over it? What has happened to you to get that orbit? Look at that. Wow. Look at that. Hey, that's certainly an interesting kind of orbit going on here. So there we go. Right, that is just crazy. So, if I just turn off orbits again, you can see all the moons just going around like absolutely crazy in there. I mean, that is absolutely nuts. So, right. I really want to try going a little further, but I reckon I mean, that's going a little too much now. And we can see, yeah, as time progresses, more of these moons are going to start getting more eccentric sort of orbits. More of them are going to get thrown out as well. I think we just saw one on the top left screen top left of the screen go out there. But that is absolutely crazy. But I'm still quite impressed that Earth is actually still where it is. I thought Earth, we would have seen a change to Earth at some point. And now, yeah, okay, so now, like I said earlier, now I've sped it up a bit. The outer solar system itself, we can see there's some issues going on here. Having those gas giants so close to the sun, that's upsetting the orbits of the normal outer planets. I mean, Jupiter and Saturn, even the original Saturn, we can see the orbit. I mean, the original Jupiter as well, even both of those guys, their orbits are being affected. We can see Uranus and Neptune, all of the dwarf planets out here, they're slightly not doing too well. It looks like Europa and Iapetus have been completely lost to the solar system now. They've been thrown out. So, pretty crazy stuff indeed. We see Dione, there's Dione, that's not looking too good now. Getting its orbit past, it's almost at the original Jupiter orbit. I mean, that original Jupiter, in theory, could pick up Dione at that range, I reckon. But that is just absolutely nuts. I mean, and as we can see here, look how the orbits are getting close to the sun now. I mean, the game is probably going to start struggling to calculate things. I mean, there's so many objects, each with their own physics and stuff to calculate here. I mean, I don't know how much faster we can go. I mean, we can try. But yeah, that is getting a little more hectic, and we can see more stuff is getting further out. I mean, the original Jupiter, that is getting dangerously close to some of these moons. I mean, there you go. You can just see that moon there. This one escaping. That one just had a little connection with the original Jupiter there, getting so close to it. I mean, that's pretty crazy. I mean, how are we doing? So, back to the sun. best place to see it all from. So, well, I mean, a little quicker, 5 months, 6 months, okay. So we're pretty much doing 2 years every 10 seconds, 5-10 seconds roughly now. So the Earth's going around fairly fast, and we can see as the years progress, more and more objects are just getting tossed out. Their orbits are changing, and eventually, I reckon, after a really long period of time, we'd probably see that not many are going to be surviving too long. I mean, a lot of them have already been tossed out. I mean, look, you can see Europa's gone, Io, we saw Iapetus get launched out, Mimas has gone, I think we lost Enceladus somewhere earlier as well. I mean, look how far away they are. Europa is now at the distance of Planet 9 and getting even further away. Io is already completely much gone. It's in the orbit of the Goblin now. I mean, that is... Yeah, and even Sedna, an object we do know that properly exists. I mean, that is they're even further out than Sedna. So, yeah, it's crazy how far these guys have been launched out of the system. I mean, at that speed, I mean, because obviously they're close to the sun. The sun can really launch these out if they have a interference in somewhere. So, yeah, pretty crazy. But I mean, I think as we can see from here, so we can pretty much conclude that if you replaced Venus and Mercury with Jupiter and Saturn, their moons will not last. They will be taken by the sun. Literally, as soon as we click play, the sun had already grabbed all of them, apart from the major moons. The major moons were all right for a few hours, a few days. I mean, I don't know. They didn't last very long. The outer moons around the gas giants, but yeah, all of the tiny little asteroid moons, far, far away from the gas giants compared to the other moons, they were lost as soon as we click play. So yeah, as we can see, the sun being that much closer has made a catastrophic effect on the moons. And look how the orbits are getting even more and more sort of sprayed out. I mean, we can see some of them are now passing the original orbit of Jupiter. I mean, some of these are almost reaching the original Saturn orbit as well. I mean, that is crazy. If we turn off orbits, how are we doing? So you can see that it looks like a lot of them have sort of broken away from the sun. And as we can see, now we don't have the trails on anymore. We can see a lot of these are just going out and never returning. Because the trails is just too insane to look at. But you can see, you can just look at the name tags. I think that's Pan there. That's a moon of Saturn. That one almost got launched out there. I mean, if we look at it back on orbits. Yeah, so Pan's got a pretty crazy orbit. You can see it on the left there. Going past the original orbit of... Yeah, that's going past Ceres orbit. So that's having quite a big comet-like. I mean, a lot of these, in theory, would they turn to comets? I'm not really... Yeah, maybe. I mean, as we can see, a lot of them, if we look in the menu here, a lot of them have got tails now. So in theory, you could you argue they're comets? Maybe I'm not really sure the actual definition of how the comets work, but I mean, some of they definitely have the orbits to be like comets. I mean, they're not the longest orbits ever, but I mean, they're still fairly crazy. How are we doing over here? I mean, you can see even the orbit of Far Out here. One of the objects just originally in the outer solar system. Look how that orbit now gets closer than the orbit of Neptune. That orbit is almost getting to the original Uranus orbit. I mean, yeah, even the outer dwarf planets are being affected by this massive change in the inner solar system here. So, absolutely crazy. So, if we just keep going, I mean, we'll just go full insane mode now. I think we've pretty much concluded what happens here. So, I mean, if we just keep going at just stupid levels, I mean, the game isn't going to calculate this properly or as realistically, but you can see eventually... I mean, I guess you could probably say it's a fair example, but you can see more and more of them are just getting shot out. I mean, Callisto, that was a planet around the sun. That's completely gone. Ganymede's gone. You can see Ganymede is over there. That's gone. Mimas and a lot more of the dwarf moons. But as we can see, yep, more and more of these are eventually just going to go. And I reckon eventually it may just be Jupiter and Saturn in there. How's Earth doing, actually? Speaking of the other planets, trails. Oh, I mean, okay, so Earth is still hanging on. Okay. Oh, but -1 degree. So how is Earth... Oh, 1.16 years. So Earth has gained. So how many days? So Earth has gone from 365 to 425 days in a year. So Earth has seen some changes. 1.11 AU, roughly here. So Earth, yeah. Earth has now been knocked off its original area. Where is Mars? Mars. Right, there you are. 1.82 years. I believe that's more than the normal... Yeah, the normal Mars year. 1.49. I mean, it's not in the nowhere near the asteroid belt area yet, but I mean... Yeah, I'd say Earth has probably had more of a change than Mars has. I mean, Mars is, yeah, -59. Yeah, Earth has definitely had a more catastrophic change, I'd say, so... There we are. But you can see the orbit of Mars. I don't think Mars is doing too good. You can see Mars is getting a little colder. I mean, maybe Earth or Mars would eventually get tossed out. I'm not sure. But we can see more and more of them. I mean, they're making a lot of interesting patterns with all of these moons. Oh! Jupiter. The Jupiter that replaced Mercury has been ejected. Now, does that mean it had a close encounter with the Saturn? Where did the Saturn go? Is it still in there? Oh my, right, no, orbit's off. Okay, so the Saturn is still in there. So has this had any changes? This was in the orbit of Venus, remember? So, yeah, I want to say, yeah, you can see roughly that Saturn is slightly eccentric. It's got, yeah, 0.111. I want to say it's slightly, I mean, it's more oval than it originally was, I want to say. But, I mean, I wonder why that Jupiter. That's interesting. I mean, maybe it's because we're running the simulation too fast for realistic things to be calculated properly. But, I mean, maybe it had a close encounter with Saturn. Maybe that it bounced off the sun somewhere. I mean, anything could happen. I mean, they are just still ridiculously close. And obviously over a long period of time, you don't know what would happen. I mean, there's obviously lots of theories about originally Jupiter may have got closer to the sun a long time ago, but then the presence of Saturn sort of pushed them both out to where they are now. And there's all those theories about, yeah, the inner solar system would have been a lot different if Saturn didn't exist. Because I think there's a theory that maybe at one point Jupiter was closer to the sun, but then the presence of Saturn also coming towards the sun, sort of, it was like two magnets just bouncing off each other, and then they both pushed each other to where they are now. So the inner solar system was in theory saved. I mean, that's just a theory, but I mean, and who knows? I mean, who knows what happened originally with Jupiter and Saturn in our solar system. But yeah, there is that theory that Saturn may have saved the inner solar system by existing. Look, speaking of Saturn, its moon, Titan has broken away from the Saturn now. So I'm guessing the Saturn, the remaining Saturn in here, I'm guessing this doesn't have any moons anymore. Yeah, so that's lost all its moons eventually as well. So yeah, the sun being in there, the Jupiter, obviously that's gone. But yeah, that thing's presence would still have had a massive effect. So how's the full solar system looking? So the orbits aren't as wobbly as before. Now that's probably because the Jupiter was ejected. But actually, speaking of that Jupiter, it's returning. It's coming back inwards. It didn't get ejected. It's hanged on. Right, so, I mean, this is just getting ridiculous now. I mean, trails. Okay, so that's a little better. So we can sort of run trails a bit more. But this Jupiter's heading back in. So what's going to happen when this happens? So it's going to come in. It's just came in. It looks like it's affected some. I mean, some things are shooting out now. So this Jupiter is now acting like a comet coming in and out. But because it's one massive Jupiter, that big mass is going to, yeah, a lot of the objects aren't going to like that. I mean, if that Jupiter gets too close to the Earth, I mean, we could see a change in Earth or Mars's orbits as well. So let's just see. Again, look, it's came in. More of them are being tossed out. Oh, and now it's locked in. What's going on here? So we can, oh, that's pretty cool. So you can see it got closer to the sun, it locked on again, but then it's sort of bouncing in and out. Oh, and that's probably game over. A lot of energy. I mean, look how fast it's going. I mean, this is traveling at a couple of years, 4 years. Look how fast. It's already beyond the orbit. I mean, look how fast that has traveled. It's gone. That's long gone. That is not coming back now. It's traveling at 21 kilometers a second. I mean, in light speed terms, obviously nothing, but I mean, that's still fairly quick. So how are we doing in the inner area? I mean, there's obviously a lot less moons than there once was. I mean, look at the state of that. I mean, I can definitely tell straight away the Earth's orbit has changed again. How are we doing? So it's back to 7 degrees, so it's warmed up a bit. 1.05, so it's actually got closer. Or has it? We can see the seasons are changing because the orbit is not as comfortable as it once was on Earth. So the climate is just going all over the place. Look at that. Oh my god, right. And we can see just day by day, I mean year by year I should say, or every 4 years, you can just see more and more stuff is just getting ejected, tossed out, just all over the shop. I mean, yeah, Earth's orbit is still changing. Look at it, orbital period 1.15, that's still changing, it's still all freezing up. We can see just loads. I mean, look at the state of that. All of that has just gone. So they're long gone. But yeah, the inner area, it's looking a little more clean, I should say. I mean, obviously the orbits are still messy, but the amount of orbits has obviously decreased a lot. I mean, I reckon we've probably lost a good half of them now. So yeah, I don't think there's any more point in really running it. Because I mean, eventually they'll just get to the point where the orbits calm down a bit. There's not as many objects to be tossed out, so there's a less chance that one will be tossed out, roughly. But we can see here, this is what happens if you do it. So yeah, literally the conclusion with this is if you replace Mercury and Jupiter, or if you replace Mercury with Jupiter and Venus with Saturn and add the moons just go absolutely crazy, and they kind of turn into like comet-like orbits in a way. I mean, some of them had tails of material. I mean, how are we doing? Yeah, that one there, that one has a tail. I mean, it did. I mean, it's gone now, but yeah, we did see it. Some of them had tails created by the sun. I mean, just look at all of those. I mean, that is just absolutely crazy. I mean, they're all going off in different directions as well. I mean, that is absolutely nuts. But one thing I want to do before we finish off, I think there is a simulation in the game with the solar system here. Solar system. I think there is one where it shows the inner solar system with potentially, I think it's this one here. So yeah, we'll just leave that behind. So if we go into it normally, okay, so yes, this is the actual inner solar system with all of the asteroids and stuff that are hovering around. So where are we? So just turn. I'll put labels on them. So okay, there you go. So this is the actual inner solar system in real life. This is roughly what it is, and it's also there's the asteroid belt objects are in here. But if we look in the inner areas, we can see that normally there is objects that are hanging around the orbits of Mercury and Venus, but remember, this is just Mercury and Venus now. These objects have nowhere near the mass of Jupiter and Saturn to be able to affect the orbits like crazy. But I mean, it still looks fairly messy, the normal solar system, but obviously it's not as crazy as the big colossal mess that we had in that simulation. So I mean, it's still a little different, but I mean, yeah, there is still objects that are hanging in this inner solar system area that are hovering around. But obviously, with Jupiter and Saturn's moons all added in the mix as well, like the simulation says, potentially hazardous asteroids, that value would increase. The percentage of risk would increase a lot with all of those moons. And don't forget, some of these moons, they're the size of Mercury, like obviously Io, Europa, Callisto, and all those, and then Titan around Saturn. If those moons got close to Earth, I mean, that would be very catastrophic indeed. I mean, yeah, pretty crazy. But yeah, enough of me rambling on now, guys. That does it for today's video. So if you enjoyed it, make sure to click that like button down below. And also, if you've got any suggestions for more things like this, let me know down below in the comments or in my Discord server. And yeah, a massive thank you to It's Shuttlecraft for suggesting this, because yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that. So yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed. And if you did, yep, let's even go for 40 likes on today's video, guys, and also subscribe for more. Helps on the journey to 20,000 subscribers. I believe we're already at 19.2. So yeah, huge thank you to everyone for that. I mean, it's going pretty quick. So yeah, huge thanks. It means the world, guys. Absolutely awesome stuff. But yeah, that all said and done, make sure you guys all stay safe out there. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.